evening, everybody. Good night. Or, no, good evening, I think is what you say when you say hello.
Talking Dirty
with Maestro.
Not just numbers,
Not just stats.
it's about what they mean.
Oops. Maestro.
We're going to throw this into a movie. See, is that better for you?
Educate me. I'm going to send to you the information.
Talking Dirty.
Welcome to this episode of Talk Dirty with your boy. Me. Want to talk more about my trip to Lagos, wearing out that jet. My smell is never coming out of that. Maybe they just might give me that jet and I can put my name on it, right? Maestro on the back tail fan. Like I told you, it's not the nice one that the Blazer gets, or Marsh or Marsh the Experts gets, or Big Bob or E Lava or C or Sam the Omega. It's not the nice one that they get to use. I do have the one that looks like it got picked up at a Goodwill and got a paint job from a Circle K in Southern Alabama. But I still like it, and I still get to ride in it, so it's a good thing. In that pickup run that I saw, there were a few players, as I discussed before, that really caught my attention. And one that really got my attention was Domingos, player at 6'8", 214 pounds, who in a lot of ways played bigger and smaller than that at the same time. The one thing that I saw about his game that I completely dug was his vision. Strong passes for a big man, a couple of assists. He probably could have had more assists. He always passed his man open. He always passed his man to the rim with intention. He always passed his man past the pick. I know there's a lot of pass and passed together. In other words, his man is coming around a pick. He knows his man is going to make the wider circle. He puts the ball where his man is going to be. And that is vision, especially if he is unfamiliar with the players. And that is what you want to see from a strong passer. I'm going to put you where you need to be. And he did that the entire game, the entire run. The other good thing about his passing ability and his vision was how he placed himself within the action at key points. Now, we're going to talk about this in a little bit in more detail, because though he often moved himself into the effectual point of being a defensive fulcrum, the end of the product didn't quite pay off that way we might have wanted it to. Not his fault, because once again, what do we say? Lack of familiarity with the people around you, lack of familiarity with the people you're playing with. Thus, we start getting those mid-handle moments that might become somewhat confusing. I'm going in because I know I need to be in the post. However, once there, you're surrounded by chaos. And in this particular run, chaos happened a lot. So it was interesting to see how players were able to sort of play themselves through the chaos to see how their skill sets would shine. And that was one thing that Domingos was definitely able to do. He was always at the ball when he needed to be at the ball. He was always able to move the ball when he needed to move the ball. I would love to see more off action with him, how he is able to manipulate the defense. There were a couple of times where I thought he was going to set a screen, but instead he walked in between or ran in between his man with the ball and that player's defender. And that causes a clog of the play. Again, could be a byproduct of a lack of familiarity. Once he get into a system, I like to see him not do that, and I'm sure his coaches will help him not do that. When he got the ball, he always seemed to manage to put himself in a position to score. This is very good for a cat rocking at 6'8", because what are we looking for? Someone who can get down into the post, even into the mid part of the post, and be able to effectuate the offense if everything is clogged up. He's definitely quick enough to do that. His hands are good enough to do that, but he was not always successful. So a need that I would immediately call out here is if he can lock down a consistent mid-range shot, one that's not so herky-jerky, one that's a little bit more fluid, using his great hands, that's going to be a plus that's going to build on everything else that he does, because then he becomes a quadruple threat. He becomes the big man that can pass it like a guard from outside of mid-range. He becomes a big man that can move the ball within traffic, which he showed the ability to do. And then he can either pass it or score it. He becomes a big man that's able to move the defense because he becomes a central point of focus when somebody like with his athleticism gets into the paint, gets into the post area. He's going to draw attention, which means he can use his vision, kicking the ball out to his teammates. And then the fourth part is his ability to be at the ball when he needs to be at the ball. Once that IQ grows a little bit more and he can be there and understand this is where the leverage of the play is. This is what I need do to either get out the way or get in the way or affect the play for the positive outcome for my team. Those four things, once he puts those four things together, he can definitely be a force in SimWorld Hoops. Thank you for checking out this half of the new, and we will catch you on, you know where, the other side.
Thank you for listening to Maestro. Want to get involved? Bring it.
Drop in discord.gg/SimWorldNBA.
If you have the brain, join as a coach. If you have the game,
join as a player.
see the game,
be the game.
Now,
Back to Maestro.
Sorry, we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Welcome back. I've been really curious about the lens of today's players, particularly everyone here, specifically in regard to coaching. What do you look for in coaches? What inspires you as a player to want to play for a coach? And that question of how many great players did not make good coaches, forget great coaches, did not make good coaches. A few players came to mind that I wish I would have seen have the opportunity to coach, even though when they talk about why they would not be good coaches, in my mind, I feel that's what would have made them good coaches. When I think about players like Magic Johnson, when he did coach, he was not received well. It was very unsuccessful. He could not relate to the players because, in my opinion, they did not have the same approach and or work ethic that he had. I'm not saying that they weren't good. What I'm saying is he played on such a different level and he saw the game from such a different level that he might have had a difficult time communicating that to the people he was coaching. I think of Larry Bird's brief time as a coach. I thought he was solid as a coach. I thought he was fundamentally sound as a coach. Indiana had some success. However, it was much of the same. Seeing those games live, watching him on the bench, watching how he did what he did, it always appeared to me to be a certain level of disconnect for players with that sort of ability, communicating to players that might not necessarily have what he had. Again, I'm not blaming either side. What I'm talking about is finding a way to fill that gap in between a great player to then become a great coach. In baseball, this happened a lot, especially in the early days. Ted Williams was a great baseball player, but was a horrible manager. The stories about what he did on the bench, how he talked to guys, how he tried to walk them through how to play the game when he was on such a high level. Even the thought of other players who were great hitters, not just like Ted Williams or other players like Mickey Mantle or whatever. They were horrible coaches in that they had such a natural gift, but they could not communicate the process of that gift to those players that were under them. And it showed when they would say, well, here's how you hit a curveball, son. Why can't you do that? Or here's how you make this shot. Why can't you do that? And those sorts of things, that's not coaching. That's not teaching. That's setting expectations without providing the person the tools they need to build those expectations. So I was wondering from the audience, from my family out here, what players do you see today in today's modern game that you feel would make great coaches and why? What do you see in them as players and what we see of them, how they interact and how they go about their business that says to you, I think this player would be a really good coach and this is why? Let me in on your view. Let me in on what you see. What makes good coaches? What makes good teachers? And what players today in today's game you feel can translate their game and those abilities as a great player into being a good or great coach. I want to hear your feedback. I want to hear what's up. Holla at your boy. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Talk Dirty to Me podcast. And of course, as we always try to tell everybody, and for some reason they just don't listen, why would you let John Wick spend the night at your house?
Like, I need to talk to somebody.
Thank you for listening to Maestro.
Thank you again for checking out Maestro. Drop a tag below and give us a piece of your mind. See you next time.
Well, thank you for your time. Have a wonderful day.